Ever get that feeling?
Like the world runs on a magic trick.
You order something online and poof, like magic.
Yeah.
It appears on your doorstep a day or two later.
Right.
But today,
We're ditching the illusions.
and taking a deep dive,
It's very real.
very complex world
Yes.
of supply chains.
And more specifically, how the strategic use of data analytics.
Is transforming the way goods move around the globe?
Exactly.
We've got a recent panel discussion to unpack here.
With insights from 3 experts,
Okay.
a supply chain veteran,
A data scientist.
and a tech innovator,
Right.
all on the cutting edge of this field,
So what we're going to uncover,
is how companies are using data,
not just to keep up with the complexity,
today's global marketplace.
but to get ahead of the curve
Okay.
in ways we never thought possible.
Because it's not just about delivering faster.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
It's about anticipating needs
Optimizing every step of the way.
and maybe even dodging a few logistical curveballs while we're at it.
Right, right.
One of the biggest takeaways from the panel
And I think this is where things get really interesting for anyone listening.
is this shift from reactive.
To proactive supply chain management.
Okay, unpack that a bit for me.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, the supply chain expert used a really interesting phrase.
He said, predict delays before they happen,
Wow.
which on its face sounds almost impossible.
Right.
But he gave this fascinating example
Of how analyzing shipping lane congestion
in real time
allows companies to reroute shipments.
before a delay even happens.
So it's almost like having a crystal ball,
But instead of magic, it's data.
giving you that glimpse into the future.
Precisely. And the data scientists chimed in,
With an example from the manufacturing world.
talking about something called predictive maintenance analytics.
Okay.
It does sound pretty high-tech.
It does. It does.
What's the gist?
Think like IoT sensors,
Embedded in machinery
constantly collecting data on things like vibrations,
or temperature. These subtle changes
often invisible to us.
can actually signal an impending failure
Really?
before it causes any major disruptions.
Wow. So instead of waiting for a breakdown,
Companies can address potential issues
before they even become a problem,
Exactly. The data scientists shared a case study
where a manufacturer reduced unplanned downtime.
by almost a third just by implementing this kind of predictive maintenance system.
That's huge.
Not only are they saving money on repairs,
They're avoiding all those ripple effects.
that downtime can have throughout the entire supply chain.
Absolutely. And they gave some really tangible examples of this.
Like a major retailer.
Who use data to completely transform.
Their inventory management system.
Oh, I'm all ears.
Because inventory management...
Always seems like such a delicate balancing act.
Right.
You've got too much of one thing in one place.
Not enough of another somewhere else.
Right.
This retailer was facing that exact dilemma.
But they were able to use historical sales data
And trend analysis.
to anticipate demand.
Wow.
With much greater accuracy.
So instead of just reacting to what customers were buying...
They were able to predict what they would need in the future.
Exactly.
And that allowed them to optimize their inventory allocation.
Across all their locations.
Ensuring that the right products
We're in the right place.
at the right time.
They even compared it to a giant game of Tetris. Strategically moving inventory around.
To meet demand in the most efficient way possible.
It's like they took all the guesswork out
Of inventory management.
and replaced it with data-driven precision.
Okay.
But
As you can imagine.
this kind of transformation doesn't come without its challenges.
Right.
There's always a flip side to the coin, right?
Yeah.
What did the experts say were some of the biggest hurdles
Companies face.
when trying to integrate analytics into their supply chain strategy?
Well, the data scientist on the panel.
Was very, very clear about one thing.
Okay.
It all starts with the data itself. He said, you can have the most sophisticated algorithms in the world.
But if you're feeding them bad data,
They're just going to spit out garbage.
garbage in.
Garbage out.
Exactly.
Oh, it makes sense.
But what makes data quality such a challenge?
Specifically in the supply chain world.
Well, think about it.
How many different systems?
And stakeholders are involved.
In a typical supply chain,
Right.
you've got suppliers,
Manufacturers,
distributors, often spread across the globe,
each with their own databases.
software
Yeah.
data collection processes,
It's like trying to assemble a puzzle.
where half the pieces are missing,
Right.
and the other half...
Are from completely different puzzles.
That's a great analogy.
And the supply chain veteran emphasized.
But it's not just a technology problem.
It's a human problem.
Okay.
Getting everyone on the same page.
Standardizing data collection methods?
ensuring that everyone is speaking the same data language.
That requires a huge cultural shift.
Speaking of cultural shifts,
Yeah,
that was another big point the panel brought up, right?
absolutely.
It's not enough to just have the right data.
And the right technology.
You need the right people.
And the right mindset to make it all work.
Absolutely. The supply chain guy actually said,
You can't just throw a bunch of data scientists at a problem.
I'd expect miracles.
Right.
You need buy-in.
From everyone, from the
Yeah.
warehouse floor to the C-suite.
So how do you get that buy-in?
How do you convince people?
Who are, like, used to doing things a certain way,
Right.
maybe even relying on gut feeling or experience?
To embrace a more data-driven approach.
That's where strong leadership comes in.
Clear communication.
Comprehensive training.
Okay.
It's about demonstrating the value,
Of data-driven decisions.
showing people how it can make their jobs easier.
And empowering them to become more data literate.
Mhm.
It's like giving someone a GPS.
When they're used to navigating by the stars,
Right.
it might take some convincing.
But once they see how much easier and more efficient it is.
They'll be glad they made the switch.
Exactly.
And the tech innovator on the panel.
Added another crucial piece to the puzzle.
Okay.
Even with the best data,
And the most skilled people
you still need the right technology.
to make sense of it all.
Right.
But they cautioned against just thinking.
That simply buying some fancy analytics software package.
Will magically solve all your problems.
Because technology is just a tool,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
It's how you use it that really matters.
Precisely. The
The tech innovator used this analogy.
of buying a state-of-the-art kitchen.
But not knowing how to cook,
Oh, okay.
you end up with all this potential,
All this amazing equipment.
but you're not really able to harness its power.
It's about finding the right tools for the job
And then learning how to use them effectively.
to achieve your specific goals.
And that takes us to some of the exciting possibilities.
And frankly, even bigger challenges.
On the horizon, the
Okay.
panel really,
Let's shy away from this.
from painting this picture of what the future holds.
For supply chain analytics.
Sounds like we're on the verge of a supply chain revolution.
That's one way to put it.
The panel definitely,
Painted a picture of a future,
where supply chains aren't just efficient,
but almost
Okay.
like sentient.
anticipating needs and adapting to change in real time.
Okay, now that's where things start to sound like.
Something out of a science fiction novel.
Right.
But if you think about it,
We're already seeing glimpses of this.
in our everyday lives,
Yeah.
the supply chain expert actually used the example of,
Personalized recommendations on shopping websites.
right, that was
Done.
just the tip of the iceberg, right?
He argued that soon.
Entire shopping experiences, from product suggestions to delivery options.
Will be tailored to our individual preferences and needs.
So instead of getting ads for things,
I might be interested in.
the supply chain will already know what I want
Yeah.
before I even do.
Think of it as intelligent anticipation.
Rather than mind reading,
Oh.
by analyzing your past purchases,
Browsing history.
maybe even your social media activity,
Right.
companies could predict what you're likely to need.
Or want, and when you're likely to want it.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Incredibly powerful.
Also a bit unnerving.
Yeah.
How do we balance,
This level of personalization with data privacy. Did the panel
address those concerns at all?
It's a valid concern.
For sure, and one that came up several times.
During the discussion,
Okay.
the general consensus was,
The transparency and control will be key.
okay,
Consumers need to
or
understand
like
that
data is being collected.
how it's being used.
Right.
And have the ability to opt out.
If they choose to.
That makes sense.
But on a more legit, it's going to be the backbone
Okay.
of future supply chains.
So we're talking about self-learning systems.
That can handle the heavy lifting.
Of all that data analysis
Yeah.
and decision-making.
In real time.
Exactly.
Imagine,
Algorithms optimizing delivery routes on the fly,
based on traffic patterns.
weather conditions, and even your own schedule.
Wow.
Or picture AI systems.
Predicting potential disruptions.
Like natural disasters or political unrest.
Right.
And proactively rerouting shipments.
To avoid delays.
So it's like the supply chain
Becomes this
like
invisible.
a hyper-efficient force
Yeah.
working behind the scenes.
To make sure we get what we want.
When we want it.
Right.
Without even having to think about it.
Precisely. And ideally.
In a way that's also environmentally responsible.
Right.
Which brings us to the final.
Big trend the panel touched on.
Okay.
Sustainability.
Right, because all this efficiency and technological advancement.
It's great, but it needs to be sustainable as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We can't just be optimizing for speed and convenience.
Without considering the environmental impact.
Absolutely. And this is where data can be so powerful.
Okay.
The tech innovator spoke about how
Companies are using data to optimize transportation routes.
to reduce fuel consumption,
Oh, okay.
minimize waste through better inventory management
and even track the environmental footprint.
of products throughout their entire life cycle
So it's about creating supply chains
that are not only efficient and responsive.
but also responsible and sustainable for the long haul.
Exactly.
It's about using data to create,
A better future for everyone.
I have to say,
This deep dive has been eye-opening.
I never realized how complex and crucial
Supply chains are?
or how much they impact our daily lives.
Right.
It's like this hidden world that we often...
Take for granted.
world that's...
Rapidly evolving
Right.
thanks to data analytics.
And with those changes...
Come setting opportunities.
But also important questions.
Sure.
We've got to make sure we're using this technology
Responsibly and ethically.
absolutely, because the future of supply chains
Isn't just about efficiency.
it's about creating a more sustainable...
An equitable world for everyone.
There you have it, folks.
A crash course in how data analytics,
Is not just transforming supply chains,
but shaping the future of how we live.
work, and consume.
Right.
It's a lot to process.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you
A new appreciation for the intricate dance of data,
that brings the world to your doorstep.
and maybe even spark some thoughts about.
The kind of future we want to build with it.
Until next time.
Happy analyzing.